wait for you. Are you good? Okay, all right, okay. You guys are? Okay, okay, all right, okay, so the public hearing for the public hearing for the revisions to the PRD section of the Township Ordinance number 368 is called to order. Good evening, everybody, welcome. I'm going to turn the meeting over to our Furman, our solicitor.
Sure, just process for tonight, tonight's public hearing, there'll be a little bit of an introduction from the township engineer. At that point, we're gonna open it up to the public to comment on, whatever parts of the ordinance that you like, or any issues that you have relative to the ordinance that's subject to the public hearing. Just like in the public meeting, there's gonna be a 5-minute time limit on initial comments for people in the audience. Obviously this ordinance has been through a lot of review by the planning commission and by members of the public, and I think as a result of the ordinance that you have tonight, a lot of those things have been incorporated in there. That is the final product this evening. That's been recommended by the planning commission, and that's what's before the board this evening. So with that, I'll just turn it over to the township engineer, Dan Slagle, to say a couple things about this particular ordinance before we open it up to the public.
Thanks, Irv. So as Irv mentioned, is that, well, let me back up a little bit. Planned residential development, PRD, so somebody understands what the terminology means. This has been part of our zoning ordinance for the township for the past probably 30 to 40 years now. And it's an important part of that ordinance also. And before I get started, I guess I'd like to acknowledge the Planning Commission for all of their months, even years worth of effort on the revision to this PRD ordinance. Specifically, Dan Taylor and Kevin McKeegan, who were instrumental in the rewrite of this PRD ordinance. So to start off is that the planned residential development section of the ordinance, which allows the developer to come into a community and to develop it in conjunction with the topography of that land. Everybody knows that in Pennsylvania we have rolling hills and topography, and then it's not like Florida or Ohio where you could just sit there and blanketly subdivide the property up and just make a bunch of houses. So the marching orders that were given to us by the supervisors was to, number one, is to look at, evaluate the proposed or the existing density of the PRD ordinance, and basically to reduce that density strategically. And I think the Planning Commission has accomplished that goal by reducing that density to approximately 50%. They've also made other additions and modifications to that ordinance in keeping with what was directed to us by the supervisors. And on that note, I think that pretty much summarizes the PRD section of the ordinance, and I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
Okay, thank you, Dan, thank you, Irv.
At that point, I think it's, you can turn it over to the public to say whatever comments or questions.
This is certainly your meeting, so we will welcome anyone and everyone to come to the podium and have your opinion. So please, who would like to address the board regarding the PRD revisions? Come on up. If you could just state your name and if you're a township resident, please.
Sure, yeah. Will Humphrey, not a township resident, but I do own property in the township. It was interesting to hear this.
Can I get your name again? I missed
Will
it.
Humphrey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you spell it, please?
Humphrey.
Thank you, Will.
I'm a developer, also own property in Indiana Township, so that's the lens through which I'm looking at this. And I have a couple concerns with the revisions to the ordinance. It was interesting to hear the stated goal is to reduce densities. In the ordinance, in the PRD, one of the stated goals that I read was to increase housing affordability. And I think that reducing density effectively works counter to that goal. That, you know, any developer that's gonna develop, I think that there's two problems with the ordinance. One is that you're effectively neutralizing its usefulness to developers, that the by right avenue is gonna be more attractive to most developers because the PRD unlocks all these other associated burdens. And by reducing the housing densities, you're increasing the cost of projects, and the only projects that are gonna be attractive are gonna be infinity homes or the big Howard Hanna projects or, you know, high-end housing, $1.5 million houses that are gonna be built on half-acre lots, not patio homes or 3-bedroom houses and that, you know, $400,000 to $600,000 range.
Yeah, if I could just
I'm
interrupt.
sorry, you should probably let him finish his whole comments.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
If I'm misunderstanding something, I'd love to.
Yeah, I just like to point out is that, well, when I said that one of the aims was to reduce the density, and that was down to, at levels that if it were developed as a standard subdivision on a flat piece of property, the density would be very comparable.
Okay.
So I don't want you to get that impression that,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, if I'm reading it correctly, it's been reduced from 3 houses to 3 dwellings per acre to 2.2 dwellings per acre. Is that correct?
But it matches up with
Yeah,
the standard subdivision.
It's not really, I don't wanna interrupt you, Dan, but
Okay.
like, you know, Mr. Humphrey came, he's got comments.
Yeah,
Let
go-
him get through his comments,
ahead,
and if
then
there's
we
something
can-
addressing, do them all collectively.
Yeah.
Instead of getting all kind of a back and forth, which is not productive.
So I have some concerns with that reduction. I feel like it does diminish usefulness of the PRD. You're gonna incentivize a lot of developers to just use the subdivision, the saldo, and not the PRD process. The increase minimum to 20 acres effectively is gonna decrease property values for anybody that owns 5 to 19 acres. You know, that's you're gonna cut that value in half. If any appraiser is gonna use highest and best use as a way of evaluating the value of a property, you have diminished the value of those property owners. It's also gonna likely limit targeted 55+ housing projects due to increased development costs, finished lot costs, which are part of a house cost, high-end, single-family, luxury townhouses, homes, likely only options under the new PRD. Yeah, I think, you know, if the objective is only high-end housing, and big high-end housing, that's effectively what I think this PRD incentivizes, so that's all I
All right, thank you, Will. Anybody else like to address the board, make comments? Hello, Emily, can you please state your name
Sure.
and if you're a township resident, please?
Yeah. Emily Gowans, I am a township resident. Do you my address too or no longer?
If you would.
54 Ridgeland Drive. I just wanted to thank the Planning Commission for spending a lot of time and energy into putting forward some adjustments which take into account a lot of the sentiments that township residents have raised. I think our concern all along has been an area that has been zoned for a certain level of density could be dramatically changed and in essence the zoning rewritten when they are granted a PRD. And that was concerning because one of the other objectives is to ensure that developments are also consistent and harmonious within the township. And the developments that we were seeing were not consistent or harmonious and added much greater density than would be typically allowed in that area. So while there are parts of the proposed revisions that I don't love, like bonus opportunities and things like that, all in all, they really, I think, worked very hard to come up with something that got to the heart of or the intent perhaps of what they were trying to do with this rewrite, which was not allow for developments to go in that are many times over the amount of housing that could normally be put in. And that was something top of mind for myself, but I also know many other residents who've been involved in this process for many, many years now. So, thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Does that mean you want to speak? You just agree? Okay. All right, just check. Anybody else? Mr. Capone, you know the routine, please?
Chris Brown, 3606 Windsor Court. I do want to thank the board and the planning commission for undertaking this revision. I think many of you may recall back in August of 2023, I sent the board a letter outlining some, in my view, perceived deficiencies in the current existing PRD. And some of the biggest ones were essentially the drastic increase in density that was allowed under the PRD section of the ordinance versus the conventional subdivision. And you may recall for like a low density residential LDR zone, PRD allowed 100% increase in the number of houses. And that, of course, is one of the reasons why we saw a big boom in development. So I do believe I am in favor of the new proposed ordinance. It does address that. I think it still does provide some flexibility. It does reduce the overall density over the whole property back something closer to what was originally zoned. If open space is provided, they can actually exceed that. So I think that provides some flexibility. And the other thing I do want to point out, and this is sort of along with what Mr. Slagle was talking about at the beginning of the meeting, I have a big property, and part of it is swampland or steep hill or whatever. The new PRD ordinance does provide flexibility to sort of push all those same houses that would have been spread out all to one end and leave that whole big half the property empty or as open space. So I think it does provide flexibility over the conventional subdivision process, because on the conventional subdivision process, I'm sort of forced to have either a 1 acre lot or half acre lot or whatever, and all the houses are evenly spread around. This does still provide the developer with the flexibility to move all the development to just a portion of the property, leave the rest of it vacant, and still overall provide the overall gross density that we were looking for. The other thing I would point out is the new ordinance, or proposed ordinance, is much closer in line with many surrounding municipalities, which I think we previously discussed when I brought up at some previous meetings. Westgear, O'Hara, so on, Hampton. It's closer to what those municipalities have done. None of them allowed a 100% increase in the number of homes just because something's a PRD. So overall, again, I thank the board for undertaking this process, and again express my opinion. I think the new ordinance is a definite step in the right direction. Appreciate your support. Fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the board? So, you know the routine as well.
Betty Owens, Township resident. I also want to express my favor for the changes in the Township ordinance. One of the concerns that we heard was the preservation of the environmental features. And so this ordinance does take that into account and does preserve more with different language than the prior ordinance had. So that is a move in the right direction, and I think that the Planning Commission took a lot of thought and consideration to put this together.
Thank you.
Andrew Machetta, 125 Rollins Run Road. Excuse me. I don't know all of the exact details. I've basically caught the cliff notes of everything. I just wanted to say that if Emily is supporting it, then it's got to be a fantastic compromise. And in this day and age, when that doesn't happen, bravo.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to address the board? Okay, if we have no takers, it's your meeting. Anybody going once?
Yes, turn.
the public meeting.
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, a second by Supervisor Khan. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. The public hearing is now adjourned. Thank you all.
Just so everybody knows, we still have to vote on the actual ordinance, we're just closing.
That's in your meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, can we get together, please?